reflecting back on my time in China, like I kind of can't. It seems surreal in a way because like you hear so much about China the last 2 years because of COVID, and then it's like, oh shit, I was there.
And through those, we want to gain the attention of the Nordics to actually educate and inspire people that are new to Web3 and kind of hesitating to get involved.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Rico here, CEO of SourcePoint Asia, host of the Green China podcast, host of the YouTube channel, of course. Back with another one. This is another one of these episodes that I'm trying to catch up with some of our partners, some of our previous employees, interns, see what they've been up to, especially people I haven't spoken to in a minute. So cue the intro, please. When we talk about like living in different countries, there are schools that you can put because people, I think the first question a lot of times people ask me when I mention this whole idea of living in two different countries, let's say, is like, what are you going to do when you have kids? You're going to be pulling them out of school and then different curriculum and all that stuff. And there are schools like, for example, in Montessori, right, where it's the same curriculum in every country. So you can just have them, plugged out from here and then plugged back into the same system in another country. That's actually Mike's daughter. She goes to a Montessori school. She was in Montessori in Thailand, and then when they moved back to Chicago, she just jumped into the school over there, and it's like a pretty seamless process. Of course, the price is different. It's like it's more expensive in Chicago than it is in. in Chiang Mai. Yeah,
I guess curriculum wise it should be fine. Probably it's more like the social ties aspect. I don't know, but I don't know what the importance of that is. Like when you're a kid, you make new friends quite easily.
Yeah,
I would say it depends on, of course, like
what kind of kid you can talk. Yeah, what kind of kid you are. I went to before 10, I think I was at 3 different schools just because my parents were we moved to the US and things like that. And then also just in general, I guess my parents put me in boarding school for a bit and stuff like that. So I will say this, it's tough. It's not an easy thing to just move schools. You feel shy, you miss your previous friends and all that stuff, but you adapt quickly as a kid. But the benefits are when you're older. I think a big part of the reason why I was never afraid to just move countries is because of that experience of being in different schools at a very young age and having to figure out my friends and things like that, like at a super young age. So, and different schools in different countries at a young age helps me just, I can live anywhere in the world and I'll figure it out,
Yeah, fair enough. If your kids, well, they will hopefully be raised by you, so they'll probably have like the same type of mentality.
Mentality. Speaking of kids and family, whatever, what's going on with you? I remember, and again, we can cut this out if it's not appropriate for the pod, but I remember you were dating the girl that you met in China.
Yeah, we dated. We were together for we broke up quite a long time. Well, not a long time ago, but almost 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, maybe. It was just not it was just not ideal, I would say. But I have a new partner now, a new girlfriend that I live together with. We've been living together for almost 8 months here in Stockholm, and it's going super well, and definitely feels, yeah, it feels like no other relationship before. So I'm very stoked on that, and it's like, yeah, it's super exciting. And not in the past, I often felt like relationships were kind of a constraint in some way, especially when you like want to move around,
Yeah.
and you want to like experience different things, and just take risks as well. Like that's not something that was super appreciated by previous girlfriends, but with this, in this relationship, I feel very comfortable in that sense that, I'm always going to be taking risks. I'm definitely a risk taker. I have an entrepreneurial mindset. I actually have like almost a phobia of working for someone else or building a career in a corporation, like the corporate life. Oh, so I'm not going to be doing that ever, I think. And it goes matches super well with her mindset. We share a lot of the same mindset, and yeah, it's going super well, and I'm very bullish on it, as one might say. Uh, yeah, I guess that's the status. Like, it's better than I could have ever imagined a relationship to be, and that's funny how it works. Like, of course, you only know what you've experienced in your subjective human experience. Like, someone tells you how good their relationship is, etc. You can't really internalize that because you haven't experienced it yourself. Now this one is like, it's just off the charts how nice it is.
That's cool, man. So what about you in terms of like obviously you're starting the company right now, getting investment. Does that basically mean that you will be in in Europe, like on a permanent basis?
That's a bit tricky. I think it will definitely tie me to Europe and the Nordics for a while, but we do want to have a remote first culture uh, in our organization. So when we expand, etc., like, we don't have any employees now, but we are a founding team of 5 people, so it's still quite a bit of coordination, and it's so much easier when we're all at the same co-working space at the same office here in Stockholm, compared to when we work remote. So we'll see how that whole thing works out. But my vision, and my girlfriend's vision as well, is to move away from Sweden. And the thing is, she's never had that. She's lived here in Stockholm all her life, so she definitely has more of a drive to move, to get out of here. For me, it's like, yeah, I've lived in China, lived in London, now living here in Stockholm, which is, yeah, it's culturally very similar to where I'm from, but it's not the same. It's still a foreign country. So I don't have the need for it as much per se, but I definitely want to optimize my life and be gone for the winter, because the winter just sucks in the Nordics. It's the same as in Canada. It's cold, it's dark, it's just not pleasant in any way.
Especially when you've lived in, I'm not saying China is the most tropical country, but when you lived in a place where the weather is more consistent,
yeah,
it makes a hell of a difference on your mood. I mean, even right now, Philippines is very tropical. It's amazing, but it's rainy season right now. So like it's dark, and it affects your mood. It affects how you work and things like that.
Exactly. So I just think, yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to find some sort of balance, and for sure it would be nice to come out to the Philippines. We're actually planning a trip to Vietnam and Indonesia this fall/winter, so might definitely do a stop by in the Philippines as well. But in terms of like moving abroad again, or like to another country long term, I think that's still a year or two away from now. I'll be grinding it out in Stockholm for the foreseeable future. And I really like Stockholm as well. Like, I speak the language, so it's super nice, and it's actually my native language, even though I'm from Finland. I'm a Finn Swede, so it's kind of the first time where I can speak my mother tongue like everywhere. So it feels good in a different way, even though we speak different accents or like dialects. It's still no accents, not dialects. It's super nice. I enjoy it here in Stockholm.
In a perfect world, if you got the business that stage, what country would you go to?
That's a good.
Like, has your business like shifted outside of China now, or is that something you're thinking about? Because I remember when I left, like that's something you were
That was one of my goals.
definitely
Yeah,
talking about. Yeah,
that was definitely one of my goals, was to start to find more suppliers. I mean, that's the reason why I chose Indonesia. Like, I remember Indonesia in terms of my Chinese New Year vacation, because I
yeah,
remember thinking to myself at that time period, like, am I gonna go to Indonesia, or am I gonna go to like Thailand or something like that? Because
yeah,
if I went to Thailand, it would just be vacation straight up. Um, but Indonesia was a little bit of a balance of both. And yeah, I mean, it's still there. It's just, of course, COVID put things on hold, right?
yeah, yeah,
COVID put things on hold. So it's more so now. I mean, what's happened right now with us is that, like, since I've been here for 2 years plus, I've made more connections. I've hired more Filipino staff, but we still have our Chinese team. China business is not going anywhere. Like, it's ironically better than it was 2 years ago. So like it's kind of a weird thing, because it's like I'm not there, but we are, our revenue is higher, has gone higher in the past 2 years. So, but at the same time, I keep thinking about long term with the business. We have to not be so reliant on just manufacturing in China. It's like we have to expand, expand to Philippines, expand to different Southeast Asian countries, um, and then on top of that, digital assets. So, I mean, I still, for me, I still have a love hate relationship with China, I would say. Like,
Yeah.
I love Chinese people when I was there. Like, I always had really good experiences traveling around and meeting new people, and people just welcome you into their houses. Like, you just meet somebody at a factory, and they're like, I'm hanging out with their kids and their wife later. So
Yeah.
there was always that's always the message I try to put out, is that it's not Chinese people, it's the government that controls all these things. Like, Chinese people don't vote and things like that. It's not their actual opinions. They just follow what's going on. Um,
Mm.
at least mainland Chinese people. And then when it comes to Hong Kong, and also what amazes me about China and just in general is just the technology and the scale of what everything is. Everything is just bigger. You know,
Mm.
you go
Yeah.
to something that's considered to be a small city, and it's 15 million people.
Yeah.
Like, this is a small city. This is the size of a country right now. But
Yeah.
anyways, uh, Hong Kong, I still love. I haven't been to Hong Kong since I left, so I
Mm.
don't know if it's the same as it was. You know,
Mm.
from what I talk about with Alan
Mm.
says it's definitely changed a lot. Like, he still loves Hong Kong. There's still a lot of stuff going on there that's interesting business wise,
Mm.
development as you mentioned. But I definitely
Mm.
think there's a shift in energy. You know, and
Yeah.
there's way less expats than there were before. A lot of people left. First, because of the
What you say? It's more
protests.
expensive.
No, there's way less expats. A lot of people left.
Oh,
First,
way
first
less expensive.
because
Yeah.
of yeah, exactly. First, because of the protests, right? Before in 2019, those the big protests, which forced a lot of people out of the country. Then COVID
Yeah.
happened, and it was just like a double down. So there's only a few people that maybe um, make money from outside of Hong Kong. I would say that the people that were like in the banking industry, financial industry, a lot of those people left, and service industry. When I say service, I mean like restaurants and things like that.
Mm.
And then for the people that were still in trading, like Alan, it
Mm.
was still beneficial to be in Hong Kong, and and of course with the PPE stuff and things like that, there's a bump in the trading industry, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely. It just feels like it's kind of sad to think about. It just feels like 2010 to 2019 was like the absolute peak golden era of China and Hong Kong.
Mm. Yeah, potentially. I don't know. I always think about it like China's still gonna be manufacturing most of the things that we consume for a very long time. So
Yeah.
that's always and then there's always going to be a necessity for somebody who understands how business works there. And then I think if you spent an extended period of time in China, or you worked with China for years and years and years, and you have contacts, that is like, me and Mike talk about it all the time. Is like one of our main resources, one of our main USPs is the resources that we have, the context that we have on the ground in China, whether it's the team, the actual employees, or it's business contacts that other people would just never be able to meet, right? It's one of those. And then just understanding the culture and stuff. But definitely resources is like huge, because you can imagine, like, if somebody wants to make a product right now and it's an original design, what are they going to do? They can't go to China. They're going to start talking to people on Alibaba. They don't know how to communicate with the people in Alibaba unless maybe they speak Chinese or something like that. There's just so much to learn,
Yeah.
So not to turn this into a sales call, but
No, but still, like, that's definitely one of the biggest USPs of SFA, is just like the relationships you guys have that have been like worked on for years and years.
Yeah. And I mean, China is still about relationships at the end of the day. Like, a lot of people want to work with other people that they know, so and that's a big part of even Asian business culture in general. I think is a lot of relationship based work.
I'm curious to hear about SFA's customer base and how that's changed over the years. Like, do you still have a lot of like Amazon businesses or like crowdfunding businesses, or has it shifted anyhow? And
it's very funny because Luke asked me the exact same question. So
I would say the consistency, like when I was in Asia versus now on the YouTube channel and the podcast, isn't as consistent. Like, would you say like you're taking a bit of a step back from that, or how's that working out?
Content wise?
Yeah.
No. So basically, what happened was we actually did a podcast about it, because I knew that people had that question, because we're releasing once a week for like years, right? No, basically what happened was COVID. Like, COVID affected a lot of different things, right? So like initially we had to cut back on some of the expenses. One of the first things was like we can't necessarily release a podcast every week. Second thing was when you're recording content and you're like at home all the time, and everybody else is at home all the time, and you're just doing Zoom calls. It's like, it's cool to do Zoom calls once in a while, but I also like to record in person. Like, I like to actually sit down with people. Like, for example, I have a podcast on a Friday, and I was like, yeah, let's do it in person, because let's sit down, let's do the whole setup. It's a little bit more of a personal thing, right? And that just wasn't happening. So like, doing the Zoom thing on a regular basis, and then also a lot of my friends left, as you said, left China, left Philippines, so it becomes like a much more difficult to organize the podcast or organize a Zoom meeting, because you're like, oh, what time are you available, and these kind of things, right? So so it was a lot of that. Anyways, to just to explain, do you remember when you were still working with us, I told you that I kind of was thinking like we need to shift our first of all, we wanted to increase revenue through providing maybe some more services, but maybe changing some of the pricing and pricing structure, things like that. So we started doing that when you were still here. And then from a marketing perspective, one of the things that Mike and I started doing in the last 2 years is that we started to shift our marketing, like materials and everything. I mean, I think that started with you actually, because you helped me write the
case study.
This case study thing. So the case study on the fitness company. And that was like one of the first steps. Then Mike and I were like, okay, we need to actually shift the kind of podcasts that we're doing and YouTube videos and things like that, because we had hundreds of podcasts and YouTube videos that are all related to startups and small to medium sized businesses. So if we're gonna start to target larger companies, we have to start talking about higher level business concepts and how we've developed the business and things like that, and the partnerships, how we do our partnerships. And so that's what we've been doing more and more. That's even why, like, this conversation that we're having right now, it's more higher level concepts and things like that. Like, I don't want to do as much of the startup stuff, but then I still want to service startups, so, and small to medium sized businesses. So we decided, okay, let's launch like a digital community. So we did the SFA Digital Summit last year. We had the course that we created, and then now we're launching a Discord chat. So the Discord, the idea behind the Discord is that for the companies that can afford our services, let's say startups or whatever, they can pay a monthly subscription fee, which is not that high. And then we have AMAs, we have exclusive content, we have, all these different things that we're going to be adding into there. So, and then of course there'll be partnership stuff. So if there's a company that, let's say a QC company that can give a discount on their services, if you're a Discord partner, then, or Discord subscriber, then you would receive that discount code or whatever it is. So that's kind of where we're shifting. And then it started to pick up more and more, I would say, in the last towards the end of 2021, we start to get more interest from larger businesses. When I say larger, I'm talking about companies that are worth $50 million plus to, multi-billion-dollar businesses, which I think I mentioned before on the podcast. So I think it's okay for me to say it. There's a company that we work with called Event Fuel. And basically what they do is they create events. And before COVID, they were doing they're doing physical events now because people can attend them and stuff like that. But before COVID, they were doing that, live events, concerts, whatever, right? Festivals. Obviously that got shut down during the lockdowns. So what they did was they pivoted to Zoom events. And with the Zoom events, what happened was they started to lose their attention because people started getting bored of Zoom, right? So then they decided, okay, how do we keep the retention high? And the idea was, like, let's make it into like a more interactive experience. So they would send out, like, if I buy a ticket to like a Zoom thing that they were doing, they would send you like a gift box with different things, maybe like board games or whatever that they would also do on the events. So it was a more interactive experience, and that helped with the retention levels. But of course, the physical actual products was something that they'd never done before. They're essentially like a tech company, so it was like, all right, they were buying a lot of the products locally sourced, like in Europe and in the US. They're based out of Ireland. So it was, but they're working with really large businesses and things like that, but they were spending so much money on the physical products. So they approached us and then we said we can source everything for them. We can even ship it to the different countries. So we did an order. Me and Alan have a podcast up on YouTube if you want to watch it. We did an order for them in conjunction with PayPal last year in November, December. It was a Christmas thing, and we shipped to like close to 100 countries. So it was So that's PayPal event fuel situation is one of a few different companies that we're kind of working with right now. Trying to develop more partnerships and things like that, and then we're trying to use our case studies from those experiences to market towards larger businesses.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I like. Nice to see that it's working, the marketing shift as well. And maybe remind me after the podcast. But I know a couple guys here in Sweden that have a company basically where they've combined Discord and Patreon. So it's like a Discord with a paywall or subscription service already integrated. So maybe you want to give that a try actually for your service.
Yeah, let me know, man. Like,
Send.
yeah, no, send that for sure because that's been. I wanted to do Patreon actually. That was my original idea, and then I was talking to Nick Zebra. You remember Nick Zebra
Yeah.
from Hong Kong, and he was like,
Yeah, I
"Just do
do.
this." He was like, "Do Discord," and I was like, "Okay."
Mm.
And he explained to me why it would be better because it's just like there's so many other things that you can do, and you know, it's an
Mm.
expanding marketplace and everything. So
Mm.
I was like, all right, so we do Discord, but I'm still interested in Patreon. So I was thinking I'll focus on Discord initially and then shift my focus to Patreon once the Discord is sort of more automated. Um,
Yeah, I'll
yeah.
definitely I'll intro you to those guys because they've definitely like managed to combine the best sides of both apps
Mhm.
into one.
Yeah,
So
I'd love
so
to talk to them. I mean,
definitely.
our community manager, he's super experienced with Discord. I don't know how much experience he has with Patreon. Um, yeah, and then besides that, I mean, we've expanded the Philippines team.
Mm.
Here we have more employees in the Philippines. Uh, I'm considering. I had an office here, uh,
Mm.
but then we kept having lockdowns, so it was just like, what's the point of, you know?
Yeah.
So I made a home office instead. But now I'm thinking like it might be good just because things are opening up, like to get a physical space because we have more employees, so it'll also be a space for them to go to work
Yeah.
sometimes if they choose
Yeah.
to. And what else? I guess we're trying to ingratiate ourselves more and more with Fuel and PayPal. Like Fuel's interested in a lot of partnership ideas.
Yeah.
Um, Even Alan, I don't know if I don't know when was the last time we spoke to Alan, but like, I mean, Alan is the one who introduced us to Fuel. So we've been working with Alan as a partner in this project, and you know, I don't want to say too much, but like, if things go really well, I would say that we'll probably end up in a situation where we're merging companies. You know,
Oh wow.
yeah,
That's super exciting.
yeah.
I talked to Alan in March, and yeah, he was telling me a bit about the situation as well, but didn't hear that part of it. That's really exciting.
I don't know if I told you before the pod, but like we're launching a Discord probably this week, actually by Friday.
Yeah, I did see that. I before our call, I jumped on the website and just saw like you have the different tiers of memberships in the Discord, and yeah, looked really interesting.
Oh, you'll be in there for free because we have like a partners program. So anybody that we worked with on a certain level,
Okay.
of course, former employees that we still have good relationship with, and larger businesses that we worked with in the past and things like that, like, and our current business partners, um, we're grandfathering in to the Discord. So the idea behind it, in terms of Mike and I's idea behind it, was like we want to create a community. So we did that with the digital SFA digital summit, but at the same time, it's a lot of work, man. It was a lot of work to create that summit and even to create the course and stuff like that. It was like you have to constantly update that. So rather than doing that, we're not going to launch another forum or something like that. Discord would be an awesome idea to create another take the same community that we already have it be more active, have it be live on a daily basis. um, Another thing that Mike and I have been, I'm not even sure if I should say this, Mike and I have been throwing around is, potentially, there could be businesses launched from it, maybe something like a DAO as well, you know.
Oh yeah, yeah.
um, who knows, man? It's just a lot of potential with Discord, man. There's a lot. So yeah, and I'm super excited about it. I'm gonna be on there. We're gonna do AMAs and you know private podcasts. We're gonna have people on that maybe we won't publish on the YouTube channel and stuff like that. It'll be only for Discord. Um, you know, and I don't know if you've seen this in our content recently, but like, how like I was a little bit more structured with my interviews before.
Yeah.
Um, like we're creating questions and things like that. I don't do that anymore because it's a little bit boring for me. Like I just kind of want to. I kind of want to get into the Joe Rogan space of just like doing 2-3 hour conversations with other
Okay.
interesting people. Maybe it might still be in Asia entrepreneurial space, right? But yeah, I mean, we're throwing around ideas about doing like a sports podcast, me and Mike.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that are kind of going around.
Is your focus like, because I have seen like,
And then I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but the employee I'm gonna mention. He was great at the beginning, but like over time, I don't know what happened with him, man. Like it was really strange. He just started to, we would sit down, we have our weekly meetings and things like that, and we would chart out like you know how we operate. So it's like weekly meeting. This is what we're doing this week. All that stuff. What are your goals? What did you do last week? And then you
yeah.
cut to the next week, and it's like you're sitting down with him, and you're like, yeah, well, weekly meeting, and he didn't like 20% of the things that he was supposed to do, and then you're asking him like why, and he can't come up with an answer. And I was just, it was just a little bit too much. So like I think that with him, a lot of the content side of things got pushed back because he was supposed to be the manager, right? So it's like I
Okay.
don't blame the editors, I blame the manager, right? That's how it goes. But I like I said, the buck stops with me. When I did my podcast before with Mike, when we were discussing about why we haven't been consistently releasing. The buck stops with me at the end of the day. I kept him on for too long, and that's my fault, right? Um, you know, so yeah, that's sort of the overall situation. But what we're trying to do right now, we're releasing a YouTube video every 2 weeks and a podcast every week, 2 weeks. Discord content will be weekly, and then we're trying to ramp back up into a weekly release type of schedule.
What's like the entrepreneurial vision for Rico, the individual, long term or near term?
Vincent, you turned this into an interview of me.
Yeah, exactly. So turning the tables around, yeah.
How dare you? I'm a professional interviewer. I've been interviewing people for years. I know what you're doing. I would say that for me, from a professional standpoint, like I think I'm a serial entrepreneur. Like I always have new business ideas. I always have different things. I'm always encouraging my friends, my family, my girlfriend even to like try something, things like this. So I think that with SFA, I go back and forth with the idea that if I got to a certain stage revenue wise, would I step down as CEO and have somebody else take over, and then just collect my dividends and start something else, right? Or I could have it be as automated as possible, and then start other things. And also, SFA could also be the umbrella of a lot of different things, right? So like, I love doing content. I love doing interviews. I love YouTube podcasts and stuff like that. I love talking to interesting people. In a perfect world, I think it would be a situation where I'm comfortable revenue-wise, how much money the company is making. It's the company is a well-oiled machine. Doesn't need I wouldn't say day-to-day, because day-to-day is always going to be a case, but like doesn't need to be as involved. And then my thing would be like just creating cool content and then starting other sort of maybe businesses within Sourcify Asia. So when I'm talking about like for example, launching the Discord is almost like starting another company, because a lot of the stuff that we're developing behind the scenes is like we're developing SOPs and all these things. Like we have to hire multiple people to manage the community, and we're trying to figure out how to automate things, and it actually feels like starting another business. And then when Mike and I are talking about what the Discord could become, and as we were talking about, I think briefly before the call, things like DAOs and how do you incorporate blockchain technology into Discord?
Yeah.
So there's a lot on that side. So I think on my side, it's like if I can just create great content and be more of like a visionary side of the business, I think that's sort of my long-term goal.
Yeah.
And then eventually maybe make enough money to start investing into other businesses and become like a VC.
I worked for a company that had done business with you guys, so I know you guys did pretty well for the PPE.
Yeah,
so no, that's good
the
to
PPE
hear.
stuff was insane. I think Mike was worried about talking about that because it's sort of a delicate subject, I think, in the aspect of the just the nature of that time period, and there's a lot of people that were looking at it like it's a gold rush and all that stuff, right? So
yeah,
but yeah, no, I mean, it was good. It was good. There was a lot of ups and downs and things like that, but it was good. And then overall for us, it was looking at the situation and being like, at the end of the day, we're helping people, right? We're helping them get what they need, and we kept the SFA values and the aspect of making sure that we're working with the highest quality, suppliers and things like that. Because I also know from other stories and other business friends that a lot of people were just going for the cheapest stuff that they could get, right? Like, and then just marking it up crazy, right? So it's like short-term gains.
Yeah, exactly. No, you saw a lot of that, especially during that PPE craze.
Yeah. What about on your side? Like, I mean, what was your whole, I guess, overall feeling or view of the whole PPE situation?
I mean, yeah, it was like for me the whole PPE thing like started like I got back from Asia and I had those contacts and I had told my buddy who was getting into PPE like, hey, like I have a contact in China, and we sort of like he had already joined a company that was into the import export game, and we had tried a few different people to get in contact with, and then I had brought up like Source Fine Asia and Mike's name, and yeah, like so I had exposure with the whole PPE game in that sense, sort of in the background, and then COVID as a whole in Canada, like I'm sure you guys have heard on the news how it is here. It's definitely been pretty intense, but overall, like decently lucky. Knock on wood. I never got COVID, and I just as you said, like I just kind of see it as a flu kind of thing too. So knock on wood, it's been pretty good so far for me here.
I remember when I was in China as well, you were still talking about like long term going back to Canada, like to settle down. Do you still think Canada will be calling at some point, or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that the reason why I mentioned that is because obviously, I love Canada and stuff like that. But my thing is I want to set myself up in a situation where financially I'm in a place where I don't have to stay in one place. Like if I want to live in Canada, I can live in Canada. If I want to live somewhere else, if I want to basically be able to live the same lifestyle in any city in the world. That's kind of my goal. So yeah, Canada's still there. A good place to raise a family, bad place to be in during the winter.
So yeah, exactly.
So it's like I see myself doing like a 4-month, 6-month stint in Canada and then leaving when it gets cold.
Yeah.
And
yeah, ideally I would want to do the same here in the Nordics.
Yeah,
for sure.
And which country I go to is, I mean, right now Philippines is probably the front runner, but like I still haven't spent as much time in South America, so I think South America might also be an interesting proposition for me.
Yeah, crazy times. I can't.
Yeah,
I'm still. I'm still, yeah, I still have such fond memories of Manila and all those people that I met. Is it still like, is there still a lot of like the digital nomad community there? Like,
I mean, it's coming back. That's the way I
okay,
put it. It's coming back. Like, I
okay,
mean, a lot of people left. A lot of people went back to their home countries.
yeah,
Um,
that makes sense.
so yeah, but what I have noticed is like when you go to the islands, for example, we spent 2 months in Portugal, me and my girlfriend last year, and in
Okay,
Portugal because the islands didn't have that so many restrictions as Manila. There was mostly Manila that was like under really strict Manila and Cebu under really strict lockdowns. And on the
okay,
islands, like yeah, there was a lot more people that were like digital nomads or just entrepreneurs in general, um, and expats in general, because it was like yeah, you don't have to wear a mask, you can just kind of operate like normal. Um,
yeah,
so yeah, but yeah, no, now it's coming back. Like a lot of people are moving back here or traveling back here, things like that, because they understand that it's easier to be here than it was in the last 2 years.
yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
You have don't you have quite a bit of like digital nomad friends that are hanging out in South America?
Yeah, I mean it's less now because of COVID. A
Yeah.
lot of people left, but no, there's definitely. I had a core group of like 4 or 5 of my closest friends living in
Mm.
Colombia for a few years actually.
Mm.
They just the more dispersed now. Some guys are in Europe, some guys are in some other countries in South
Mm.
America, and then some guys are in back in Canada. So
Mm.
uh, yeah, it's still a. I mean, but they still talk about going back to Colombia or going to live in Brazil or things like that.
Yeah.
So it's not like they wanted to leave because they didn't like the place. It was just like, okay, COVID's happened. A lot of people left just because they're freaking out about the situation
Mm.
and the uncertainty of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But besides that, I was just going to add one point.